I'm Patrick Bay with iCueList. Today is May 8th, 2022, and in this video I'm going to talk about an experiment I'm working on. A clamping nut experiment so I can attach two 3D printed pieces together mechanically. Okay, this is not so much showing off a print, but showing off an idea. So a couple of things are causing this to happen. One, I got this Kunai Naruto fridge magnet we worked on. And a couple of things. One, I would like to have the color different right here for the handle. What I'd like to do is black, and then a white kind of color, and then black again.
Like that one?
Just like this one. However, if I were to do that, and I'm printing like this, we're at an angle. So we're gonna have some funny lines, you know. So I thought, easy solution. I'll do this a lot of times. I'll print in two pieces and I'll thread them together. However, there's a problem. If I were to thread these together, this ring and the knife blade need to line up. And if you get those threads, and even if you try to get them perfectly right, you twist a little bit more and you're off center. It's going to be really hard to get that correct. And even if you do, it's just not going to work very well, unless you're going to glue it. And I try to avoid gluing as much as possible. Okay. And also, my daughter came to me and she wanted an actual kunai knife. And the 3D print I used before to make this one, you can see it's got sharp edges. And I don't want to give my daughter really sharp kunai. Well, I mean, it's plastic, but you could still probably hurt somebody, you know? So I took that design. I'm not going to go over it too depth, but I redid the whole thing in OpenSCAD, and I made it rounded. And I'll show how to do that at some point in another video. I might not show it in this video, but at some point I'll do a whole video on this once I get this figured out. And I'm still trying to figure it out. But now the idea is I want to print these like this and attach them. But like I said, if I merely do a screw, it's not going to line up just right. So I can put a thread here, and that's working. But if I merely put a thread here, I got a problem. So what I was thinking about is I'm going to use the wrong word, a clamping nut, something that will screw onto it and push it down. But the idea I came up with that is I'm nearly there. I'm getting closer to work. Is put a square on the bottom. In fact, it's kind of like a cut-off pyramid. And that way it lines up, and then it forces it to be in the right direction. But what this has to do then is this has to be loose. And so it might be hard to see what I did. And once I show you some more OpenSCAD, you'll kind of see what I did. But I made this loose so it can move. And I still got a few more tweaks to go to get it working well. But then you put that up, and I'm still in the tweaking stage, right? So I can screw it on a little bit, but at some point I got to get it lined up and kind of lock it in. Yep. It's hard to get it lined up sometimes. Get it in that square. Then you got to kind of muss a little bit. And I'm thinking for something like this, once you get it together, probably hit a little bit of glue on there so it's going to stay sealed, because you're probably not going to want to take this apart again. The main idea is I don't want to take this apart, but I can print it in two pieces and get the effect that I want. So I got black, I got the handle like I want, and I got the black up here. So the idea worked. I still have a few more tweaks to get done. For example, I've got, for this designing, so I can't release it quite yet, but you can see I still have a few threads showing here, and I don't want that. And then also, while I print in place, the idea is this, clamping nut on the outside. Once you print it in place, you should be able to pick it up, and this should be loose. Or you should be able to break it apart pretty easy. But I'm still working on the spacing in between, because although the last time I printed it, it was stuck. It had kind of crossed over. There wasn't quite enough spacing, so it was kind of sticking to itself. And I did manage to break it free, but I don't want, the ideal is you don't need to break it free at all. And the next ideal is just a little bit of pressure and break it free. This one I had to do a lot of pressure. So before I release something, I want to, on printables, I want to make sure it's working pretty good on the printers I have. So let's go over the details on this. So this is still an experiment, but let's go over all the OpenSCAD fun. Okay, I have no URLs for this one because I'm still trying to figure this one out. I have no OpenSCAD out there yet, but I will eventually once I nail this, but I still got a few more things to try. Now, I made a simpler example to try to explain things. This is not actually what I'm doing, but it's something you could do in a simpler example. So imagine you just had two pieces you want to attach. So here's this one piece, and there's some other piece below it that has a thread on top. What you could do is you could just make a metal shaft, and at the bottom you could come down here and expand it out, do an angle, because we got to do these 45-degree angles in consideration of how we're going to attach it. And then what you could do is you could have a clamping nut up here that's hollow, and what it would do is, it would be the same size inside diameter as the diameter of, pretty much a little bit bigger, of the diameter of that rod, but it also would press against the bottom. So as you would push this down, so you'd see it just go down, 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 and eventually all the way down. And then this would actually go even further down technically, like that. But let me do something so I can show it a little better. Let's see, line 130. Let me split this. So I have this little split thing where I basically cut the whole thing in half and we can see the innards. So there's the innards. So as it goes down, 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 what we would want to do then is we want to go a little further down. So I'm not going to, this is not going to be the perfect example, but it gets you the idea. Gotta go back down here. So now we can go down, we'll go down just one, and you can see it'll actually start going further down. And what's the idea is this part is going to press against this part. So let me go down 5, a little too far, 4. So after right about 4 millimeters in this case, in this little simple example, it'll start pressing against here. And although my example is not quite accurate, these threads will actually be down here, and then it would thread into something, thread into the thing, whatever it is below it, and then you attach them together and seal them and press them together. So normally it's just easier just to have two threads connect, but in the case if you have some weird situation where you can't, or in my situation we have to align them, and you want to get that correct, this idea might be worth value. Now the actual one I'm doing, and like you saw, I have a square on the bottom that grows. So here's my actual. In fact, I just tweaked this recently, and I'm doing another test right now. So it prints in, but see the problem with mine, is you can see if you look at that kunai knife, it has these little decorative ridges. So it goes in and out and in and out and in and out, which I think looks pretty cool. And you have this little space right here in between. So in that case, I can't print this out as a rod, even with that ring on the top. If all it was a straight rod with a ring on top, I could print out this extra piece and then stop it midway, put this guy on, and let it continue. But in this case, I can't. I have these extra little ins and outs, and so it can't go over. So the only choice is to print in place. And so here's the cutout. So the actual guy goes right here, down, boom, back and forth. And then here's the difficult part where this circle goes into a square. So you have the square at the bottom to help me square it up. And then what you see down here is I got this, boom, boom, boom. And then that's going to go down. And I don't know if I have an example where I can move it. Can I move it? I didn't prepare for that one. But also, I'm trying to figure out this code. So here's this spacer. So there's that 0.4. If I made it 1.4, it's going to make that spacer bigger. Because if I'm trying to tweak it, trying to make it variables, because I'm not sure yet what's going to work. I know 0.4 sometimes works and sometimes doesn't. So I think I'm going to make it a little bit bigger, like a 0.6 probably. That's what I'm testing, a 0.6 right now. And I think that little bit of space is going to help it to make it easier to either very simply break apart versus very difficultly break apart. Like the one I showed you, it broke apart. I got it to work. And when I say break apart, I don't mean break, but just so that I can move it and make it work. But I need enough space so that I can break it apart and move it, but still let it seal. So we're trying to 0.6. We'll see that works. Once I can get something consistently that works, then we'll post something. But I think in general, This is an idea that I think I'll come back to. Not that it's an original idea. I mean, there's, I don't even hope I'm using the right word with clamping nuts. There's all kinds of clamping nuts out there that do this concept. It's just how do we apply it in 3D printing, because we have this unique thing, and I have this unique example where this clamping nut is printed in place and stuck there. It's never gonna, I can't put it on or off or back or forth. It has to be printed in place for this particular idea to work. So some more experimentation to go. But once I get there, I'll post all this stuff out there. I like it. I like the idea, and I think it's going to be a useful tool in my arsenal for 3D printing, and maybe someone else out there it might help you too. So with that, let's wrap this up with a reminder that 3D printing is an engineering adventure that you're on. You can develop your skills and knowledge and take this in so many ways. You can make a business out of this, and you can teach others, and you can make some amazing designs. So design it, engineer it. I'm about to celebrate getting back to even numbers of subscribers on YouTube since I started releasing a video every day. It can be frustrating sometimes putting stuff on YouTube and seeing your subscriber count go down. I imagine a few people subbed a long time ago and forgot why. And now that I'm putting a lot of videos out, it may be a little much for some who are not into what this channel is about. And that's perfectly fine. Also, maybe some bot cleanup on YouTube's part. But I hope I'm at the point where I have worked through all that, and now I can see some subs go up as I try to put out some worthwhile content for folks. Which reminds me, if you like what I'm doing here, be sure to subscribe to the channel and give those videos you like a like. It sure helps out a lot.